Today, I wanted to walk you through what Neptune AI is and how it can help you in your day-to-day work as a data scientist, machine learning engineer, or machine learning platform engineer. So, what is Neptune? Neptune is a machine learning experiment tracker that is powered by a machine learning metadata store. It provides you a central place where you can track, compare, and collaborate on experiments throughout your organization. An experiment tracking process without such a central location can become tedious, especially if you have grown to a reasonable scale when it comes to your machine learning efforts. Think about storing this metadata in Excel sheets. When looking into organizational structure, for data scientists, Neptune provides capabilities to help them develop production-ready models faster. Think about capabilities such as easy integration to store the machine learning metadata and powerful visualizations built on top of it available via Neptune user interface that help to debug and improve models as they are being trained. Additionally, via the artifact registry function, data scientists can hand over models downstream the production pipeline easily. Neptune here acts as a glue between experimentation environments and production deployments. Machine learning engineers, on the other hand, can easily access the models produced by data scientists and automate the machine learning systems downstream. Nowadays, experiment tracking capability in the machine learning platforms is more of a necessity than a luxury. It provides auditability, reproducibility, and debugging capabilities. Neptune is really lightweight and technology agnostic, so it is able to integrate with any MLOps stacks easily. So if you're in an organization that has grown to a reasonable scale when it comes to MLOps efforts, you will probably see a setup something similar to this. On top, we have a development environment in which data scientists develop in their favorite IDEs like Jupyter notebooks or PyCharm or VS Code. They do some data exploratory analysis and then continue to run a machine learning training pipeline, which includes steps like data validation, preparation, then model training, model evaluation, validation, and finally model handover to some storage. Each of these steps produce valuable machine learning metadata that can then be used for auditability, reproducibility, and debugging. As an example, you would track things like what data was used to train the model, what the training validation test split was, what model architecture are you using, what model parameters are used, what quality metrics have been produced when training this machine learning model. And Neptune AI here acts specifically as a central storage for this metadata and then exposes it for the end user via Neptune's UI. Once you have this model ready for production, you would usually automate this pipeline and orchestrate it via tools like Kubeflow or Airflow. Since the code that is used for this pipeline is very similar to what it was in the experimentation environment, it is really easy to lift and shift it into these automated pipelines. And there is very little need of changes when it comes to Neptune AI code that is needed for this tracking implementation. When it comes to Neptune's architecture, it comprises of two main parts: SDK and UI. These are the only parts that are exposed to the end user. SDK is in the form of a Neptune client library that you use in your scripts that train your machine learning models. Once you start tracking machine learning metadata, it is then being forwarded to a Neptune's backend servers, from which the metadata is then exposed via a Neptune web interface. Neptune web interface comprises mainly of three layers. The top one is a workspace. You can think of a workspace as an organization inside of your organization. Usually you will only need one, but given some security requirements, you might want to have more. It is a very rare case. Downstream the workspace, you have projects. you can think of a project as a machine learning use case. For example, if you're training a recommender system, the models powering this recommender system might be part of a single project. If you have another use case, you would have a second project. Next layer are the runs. Each project can have multiple runs, and you can think of a run as an experiment. Single experiment will usually have not usually, but it will always have a single set of model type, model parameters, the data on which the model was trained. If anything changes, like you are testing a new set of features, or you have changed parameters, hyperparameters of your model, or you could even change the model architecture itself, then it would be a new run. This was a short high-level introduction of what neptune.ai is. Now let's see how Neptune looks like in the real world. So how do you start using Neptune? First of all, you need to install Neptune's client library. It is as easy as running pip install Neptune. Once the client library has been installed, you can use it in your Python scripts. You do so by importing Neptune, initializing a run object, and then using this run object to log metrics to your Neptune instance. This run object has keys. It can be a single word or several words separated by a slash. If there are several words, this means that you have a parent namespace that has some child namespace. Into a namespace, you can log your metrics. You can log either a nested structure like this, or a single metric value like this. You can also append additional metric values on a already existing metric value. By doing so, you create a metric series. You can also track files to your namespace. This allows for data versioning, or you can upload an entire file directly into Neptune. After you have completed your training run, don't forget to stop your run object. As a data scientist or machine learning engineer, you might not want to spend too much time in your Jupyter notebook once your training run is running, and Neptune has you covered here. If you start logging your metrics and it continues for some time, you can actually observe the results in real time in neptune.ai. Here is a small example. If you run this code, we actually start logging into Neptune. Once you start logging into Neptune and initializing your run, you will get the URI, which you can go to, that points you directly into the run that is actually being used to log your metrics. And here you can actually see these metrics coming in real time and changing in real time in your UI. Very neat capability of Neptune. On top of regular code, we provide a bunch of integrations. You can find the list of integrations in our documentation. There's quite some. An integration for Neptune means that we provide an abstraction on a given framework that allows you to write less boilerplate code to actually track metrics that you might be interested in. By adding a single line of code, you will be able to track multiple metrics of interest that are emitted by a given framework without actual additional boilerplate code. All of it comes out of the box. Now, let's see the power of visualization that Neptune's UI provides. This is an example Neptune project that already has a lot of rich metadata logged to it. As you go into Neptune's UI, you will be greeted by the so-called runs table. Each row in a runs table represents an experiment, and each column in the runs table represents a metadata point that you have logged. You can do changes to this run table by, for example, adding a column to it, adding or removing a tag. These changes can be persisted by saving the table as a specific new view. We actually have already prepared some views for you, and we will analyze best performing view. For example, this is a table that has been pre-filtered to retain only the rows that have metadata of a metric best validation dice coefficient more than 0.8. We also sorted it by dice coefficient. We also added some additional colors to it and rearranged and added additional columns as well. Once we have this custom view saved, we can share it with our machine learning practitioners in our organization by copying the URL and sharing it with them. Let's zoom into one of the runs. After zooming in into a specific run, you will be able to analyze the metadata you have logged to that run in detail. This is also where the namespacing concept really comes into play, and you will be able to organize your metadata very flexibly. As an example, all of these folders are top-level namespaces that you logged to. You can click into each of them. Let's take fine-tuning as an example. All of these folders are now child namespaces of fine-tuning namespace. Going in further, we see that in this case, a hierarchy of namespaces ends. This is also where we logged a nested structure in the form of dictionary, and Neptune flattened it for us automatically. You can also click into each of the values and inspect them in detail. As a data scientist or machine learning engineer, you will most likely want to observe things like your loss evolving, your training loss evolving, or your accuracy of your model evolving. This is where charts come into play. Anything that you have logged as a metric series will be automatically rendered in this tab as a line chart. As you can see, we have quite many of these in here. These are not just regular line charts, they are interactive. One of the things that you can do is smoothen them. Another thing that you can do is just hover over them and see the actual values at actual points in time. Next screen is the Images tab. This is where naturally we store any images that you have logged. It stores both regular images and image series. And image series in Neptune is quite a neat concept. Let's look into it closer. What you can do with it is actually run them in the carousel mode and displays image series as a video. One can see how this is really useful for a data scientist who is working on a image segmentation problem and wants to see how the neural network that is being trained converges to a loss function over each of the epochs. In this screen, you can also download images if you would like to. Additionally, Neptune logs system metrics automatically. In the Monitoring tab, you will see things like CPU and GPU utilization being logged, as well as GPU memory and RAM memory being logged as well. This is also where standard error and standard out application log streams will be visible, which is super neat because you will never need to actually leave Neptune's UI, because you will be able to fully debug your application from this screen. In Source Code tab, you can see that Neptune tracks the script that has produced this run automatically. It tracks the entry point script, and then you can track any other code snippets you would like to. Neptune also tracks any Git information that you might be interested in. In the Artifacts tab, artifacts are displayed, and artifact in Neptune means something that is remote to Neptune and is logged as a pointer to that object. For example, these files are stored in S3 but are not directly uploaded into Neptune. However, Neptune is able to actually extract quite some rich metadata about it, like the path where it's stored, when was the last time the object was modified, the size of object, hash, and URL. Very useful. Once you have all of this metadata tracked, it might be pretty tedious to each time go and find something that you want. That is why Neptune has this feature of custom dashboards, where you can actually choose whatever you want to display and construct a custom dashboard out of it. We have prepared a dashboard called Training Overview, and this is how it looks. You can add any metadata you want to here, and then you can share it with other machine learning practitioners by copying the URL and sharing it with them. After we have tracked all of this metadata, we want to actually be able to compare it against each other through different runs. Let's see how you can do that in Neptune. In order to compare multiple runs, you will have to select them. And this is how you do it through a runs table perspective. We are back here at the best performing saved runs table view, and we see these eye-shaped icons next to each run. We select them for comparison by clicking on them. So we already have 5 of them selected, and let's switch to a Compare Runs tab. The first tab here that you will see is Charts tab. Similarly, like in Runs Details, any metadata that you have logged as a metric series will be automatically rendered here. For example, here we have a line chart for each of the runs that you have selected for comparison. By hovering over it, you will be able to see a specific value of a metric at each point in time for all of the runs that you have selected for comparison. You can also smoothen the curves similarly like in Run Details. Next tab is Images, and if you have logged any images, here you will be able to compare them side by side for each of the runs. If you are a data scientist or machine learning engineer, you are most likely running some hyperparameter optimization jobs. Neptune provides you a convenient way to analyze the results of these in the form of parallel coordinates graphs. This is how it looks like. Each of the columns represents a specific metadata point that you have tracked, and you can then filter them out using these convenient buckets. You can drag the buckets in the column. So for example, if you are interested in these two metric results of a best validation dice coefficient, you can select them and then see what kind of hyperparameters have produced these results. You can bucket the hyperparameter columns as well and analyze everything by sliding them and creating new buckets in different columns. Big part of MLOps is tracking artifacts and datasets that were used to produce machine learning models. In this tab, you can actually compare them between several runs. Here we have 2 of the runs selected to compare each other against. And here we have some artifacts that are actually datasets used to train the model. We highlight them in different colors. If it is green, that means that it is present in the right side, however absent in the left side. If it's yellow, it means that there was a change in the artifact, but both sides have the artifact. And if it would be red, that would mean that it is present on the left side, but absent on the right side. Let's click into them. Here is some metadata displayed, and we also see that it is absent on the left side. If you click on the yellow one, you will see the changes in the artifact itself. Right here, the last modified date has changed, the path to the file has changed as well, even though the hash hasn't. The final tab contains a training overview custom dashboard that we have created previously in the Run Details view. We actually retain the same dashboard, and if that dashboard contained any elements that can be compared between runs, they will also be present here. As you can see, we have all of the line charts that contain metric series. By now, you have a very good high-level overview of how neptune.ai can help you in your day-to-day work as a data scientist or machine learning engineer. From the very beginning, we have designed neptune.ai to be an enterprise-ready solution. You can choose one of 2 deployment options. First, deploy it as a cloud SaaS offering managed by us. By choosing this option, you will offload any maintenance burden to our team. Your data will be securely stored on GCP servers in EU. You can also deploy Neptune on your own servers. The deployment procedure is not complicated as Neptune is deployed on Kubernetes. You can choose to do it on your already existing clusters, or we can bootstrap a new cluster for you on your own VMs. When it comes to security, Neptune.ai is SOC 2 compliant. You can find any supporting documentation in our security portal. As expected, we provide role-based access control and we integrate with SSO solutions. This allows for secure organization-wide access. All of Neptune's users get email and chat support. We are flexible and can agree on different support levels for organizations. This is all that I had for you today. Hopefully, it helped you onboard into Neptune platform more easily. If you have any questions remaining, do not hesitate to reach out to us via email or intercom plugin in our website. Hope to see you soon on the platform.